Hello, and once again, welcome to the Change Exchange, where our guest today, Gugu Zulu, what do they call you? The fastest brother in Africa.
It's the fastest brother in Africa, and so far it seems to be sticking. So yeah.
You grew up in Soweto in 80s, 90s. How did a black boy get into racing driving?
I'm not sure really. Really, for me, I've always had a passion for cars, and my mom relates a story where, at the age of about 6 years old, she used to ask, "Google it, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And at that point, all she said, I said, is a driver. She used to ask, a taxi driver, a bus driver, or what kind of a driver? I was like, I just wanted to be a driver. But I think things really materialized when I started collecting magazines at about 10, 11 years old and following motorsports on TV as well. And that's when I really, channeled myself to say I want to be in motorsports, some sort of motorsports activity. And as you know, at that time, things were very challenging, particularly for my folks to be able to afford, number one, to get me into motorsports.
When are we talking about?
This
early
is
90s?
probably early 90s.
Sure. Things were dear McGar.
Extremely. Life was really challenging, and I think at the same time, South Africa as a whole was going through a lot of changes, particularly in 94. And I think at that time, as I said, the closest I could get to motorsports, not even attending an event as such, but following it on magazines and watching it on TV. And I used to also collect car models, which, every month I'd always ask my dad, please, can I have some pocket money? And I'd save up for a couple of months, and then I'd go and get myself a car model, and I'd ogle over this thing and say, I wish I could drive it one day. And I used to watch the car shows such as Drive Time with Alan Johnson, and I've always told my folks at that time as well to say, you know what, one day I want to actually do that and be a presenter.
And what did they say?
My mom was very supportive, and even my dad as well, to say, listen, chase up for your dreams. I was very fortunate that I didn't have parents who kind of said, you got to be a lawyer, or you got to be a doctor. It was, Gugu, be a free spirit, chase up for your dreams. And they encouraged me, and therefore support came in the form of saying, hey, here's a car magazine, a new one, or hey, here's a new model. And I think that base as well was very, very solid, and it helped me to actually propel myself to search for that dream and make it happen.
Can you remember the first time you actually saw a race?
It was back in 1990, probably 92. Yeah, 92 at Kailami. And it was like a Formula Ford race and Formula V. And, for me at that time to say to my folks, listen, I want to go to Kailami today. It was like, Kailami? Why would you want to do that? And living in Soweto and Kailami, it was very, very far in that time. And it was like, okay, cool. My dad took me over, and myself with a friend of mine, Elmia Arnotovich, we then went to Kailami.
So your dad went with you?
My dad went, but he dropped us at the gate.
Oh.
And he's like, cheers, boys, enjoy your day. And that was that. And we then walked the whole place. And it was an amazing experience. We took lots of photographs. In fact, I used to cycle from Soweto all the way to investment cars, as well as, I think it was chariots, House of Sports cars, and I'd just take photographs of these wonderful cars. But I remember going back to school after the holidays and showcase to my friends, and he's like, why do you do this? I mean, dude, why? You'd never become a racing driver because you're a black guy, You think there'll never be a chance where there'll be Michael Schumacher followed by Gugu Zulu and David Cool. It will never happen. But today, at least, I can say that those guys all come back and apologize.
But how did you react? Deep inside yourself, I mean.
Just fulfillment, I think. I felt at peace.
But I mean, everyone constantly saying you can't do
that
this,
part.
forget it.
That part was very harsh. I mean, especially in high school, people used to always. I think high school, from primary school, you're pretty much open-minded to anything in life. But then when you get to high school, then comes the real life, so to say,
they start
where people
saying,
tell
get serious
with life. And I think at that time, it was very harsh for me when people discouraged me to say, listen, it will never happen. And I guess that's the part where then it just said, listen, you got to make it happen. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I just wanted to be a driver, a racing driver, that is. And I had to look and find for a way to get into the sport. I used to call up, there's a gentleman by the name of Peter Wise, who was looking after sponsorship for Sasol, and I called him up once, and just called. Hi, can I please speak to Peter Wise? And unfortunately, the secretary said, sorry, he's not available at the moment. So I called about probably 8 times or so. Eventually, I did get a hold of him, and I said, Peter, I'd like to actually get involved. I understand you're running a development program.
And you were how
I
old?
was, at that time, I was still in high school. I was about 16, 17. And he told me, sorry, that program is closed, closed entries, and he dropped the phone on me.
Oi.
Little does he know, at that time, a few years later, he'd be the one actually calling me and actually doing my press releases and helping me in terms of managing my sponsorship. So that's why I'm saying sometimes the wheel turns.
How did you get into the academy?
The academy, I was actually on holiday with my family out in Warmbaths, Warmbaths, as it was called. And we were at this pool area, and I was actually just relaxing and chilling. And I saw an Afrikaans lady who was sitting on the right of me, and she was reading a Sowetan newspaper. Now, remember, early 90s, probably about 1996. Lady, Afrikaans, reading a Sowetan newspaper in Warmbaths of all places, a little bit weird. So I asked her, could I please have a look at the newspaper? And I did. And in it was a whole article how motorsports wants blacks. And they were talking about the development program that they were running at Kailami racetrack. And there was a number at the bottom for a gentleman by the name of Vusi Kunene. I promptly called him, and the following week I was at Kailami.
Sure,
And,
the angels were
I'm
there.
telling you,
Right?
they were really smiling at me. And the following week, I told my dad, showed them, I said, guys, please, I gotta go.
You were in matric then?
I was in matric then, yes. Getting into matric. And 1996, I was going into post-matric, actually. So I then went to Kailami, and when we got in, and it was just really introduction to motorsports, the basics of saying administration of the sport, and then we'd get exposed to some of the race meetings that were happening at Kailami. Then we were taught marshalling, and then the basics of go-karting, which was my strength, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be behind the wheel, not behind the flag.
I want to be a driver.
I want to be a driver. So we did well, and I think the program itself was really just a program to introduce kids from previously disadvantaged communities to motorsports. They used to bus us from Soweto and Dube, and we'd all meet up early morning around 6 o'clock in the morning, and we'd get bussed through to Kailami, be there from about 7 o'clock, and then spend the whole day being exposed to all of these activities. I would have marshals, the Kailami Marshals Association, come and present. We'd have some people that come and talk about the sponsorship, come and talk about the administration. And obviously when there's a race meeting, again, we'd get exposed to that. And then, the karting element was then put together. We would go-kart occasionally, but it was really indoor go-karts. So not the competitive racing.
Not on the track yet.
Not on the racetrack. But that all then materialized and came into, became a bit bigger than what it was at that stage in 1998 actually, when they were going to introduce a sports car series, a development sports car series called Isondo Sports 2000 series. And this series would basically travel throughout the country with the main road show of racing at the time. And then they were asking, right, we need to get you guys to do trials, and see as to who can actually drive and who can't. And probably about 560 kids tried out for this wonderful program. And out of that, I was one of the lucky 20 to be selected for the first season in 1999.
And then you won, what was it? The Vodacom Isondo Sports 2000 National Championship.
Yeah, it's,
take us back when you knew I'm there, that moment.
Really, I think in 1998, we actually had the trials. So when I made it to the top 20 to ride in that series the following year, which was 1999, our very first race took place at Kailami. And it was the 31st of Jan. I'll never forget that day. Beautiful day, sunny, the works. And I had qualified actually on the front row, not on pole position, but I was on second spot. And I knew that I had what it takes. I mean, out of 20 guys, here I am. I'm sitting on the front row, and the times were very, very close to each other. But I lacked a lot of racecraft. I had never raced, whereas my teammate had some sort of exposure. His father was involved in motorsports as well. He's an Indian boy, and Ishad Jaffa, and he had already started go-karting, but at a competitive level, not even the level that I had been in. Needless to say, we went into the first corner, second corner, and I think it was probably the fifth corner, I got spun out, and I lost out on that race. So my first race of any form of racing whatsoever, I actually spun out in the fifth corner. But I made it up because later in the afternoon in our second race, I was able to start at the back, and I managed to weave my way all the way. I think we finished second for that race, and that's the time I knew that this is what I was meant for. this is my thing, this is my passion, and this is what I have to make work. And I think we had a brilliant year. Although I lacked a lot of racecraft, I used to do lots of lap records throughout all the races that we used to go to, but I'd never actually finish because I'd always either spin out afterwards or crash or something just went wrong. But the following year in 2000, I actually put things, I bundled up my training from the previous year.
It all came together.
And it all came together so perfectly, so much so that out of 18 races, we won 16. And the other two, we kind of gave other children a chance to also enjoy the win, But that was just a crowning moment for me.
What does this teach one? You say that you spun out, you didn't win, all kinds of things went wrong, but you kept going. This was what you wanted to do. What does this teach you?
I think for me, it's about perseverance and patience and planning, and there's a little bit more than that as well, because in the end, life is not perfect. It's not always smooth sailing. It's constantly challenging. It's either going up or it's going down, sideways, you name it. So I think you learn from your experiences in life, and every moment that you live and the challenges that you face, it's part of learning, and you can always do things a little bit better in order to improve and move forward.
But you had one vision, and nothing was going to
nothing else. Besides the fact that, hey, I'm a black boy who wants to be in motorsports. Of course, when we got to the circuits, you stood out like a sore thumb. It's like, hey, and then what's your story? And it was just the way it was.
Did you feel unwelcome, or did you feel just exotic?
Nice words, actually. That's a nice way of looking at it. I always tease myself and my wife. We do so many other things, and we sometimes feel like we're the endangered species at certain places. But no, I think I remember the 31st of Jan 1999. The whole pit lane of all the drivers, and they all looked at this development program, many of whom were very negative about it, because why all these black boys get these cars, and why? But they all stood on the sidelines of that pit wall, and they were waiting forward to see a big crash on the first corner. Many of them were making bets about it to say, they're going to have a big crash, they're never going to succeed. And thankfully, we never did. We actually completed a full lap, and we were all running. It was all good. And I just think, at the same time, it's just one of those things that we had to go through. It's a hurdle that we got through. And thankfully, here I am today. I'm a multiple champion, and I'm established, and I'm making a career out of my passion, and that is motorsport.
Bloody marvelous. You met Sarel and Merwe around that time.
Yeah,
that changed things, huh?
Super van, it's funny. When we were still, I think it was probably in 1997, that's when we were doing this Isondo Academy and, being introduced to motorsports. I remember walking in the pits, and I saw him, and I said, hey, Sarel. And I wanted to kind of walk up to him and say, how are you, and instead he just brushed me off. He just said, yo, hello. And he continued walking. He didn't look at me. And I was kind of shattered by that. But needless to say, this is the Sarel and Merwe I've seen on TV commercials, and the driver. It was odd that 2000, here I am, I get a phone call from Supervan himself to say, hey, Zulu, in his very gravel voice, listen, I want you to come and drive for me next year. And who would have thought?
Did you think someone was
at first I said, come on, is this really Sarel? It's like, yeah, it's me. In that deep, you cannot just, Sarel's got a certain voice, and his dry sense of humor as well. So
and when you put the phone down,
I couldn't believe it. I must tell you, I probably did a whole jump and a skip, you name it, because here it is, a legend, South African motorsports legend, calling me to ask me to come and drive for him. And I then went to meet him, and he then told me, listen, I'm starting a team next year, and I'd like you to partner up with me. Sure. And that, that just said, right, this is exactly the vehicle that I needed just to move it up a notch. And it's no longer about development anymore. It's about me getting into the mainstream of the sports.
I'm playing with the big boys.
I'm playing with the big boys, and that's what we did. It was an amazing experience for me. First time getting a full sponsorship package. First time actually driving a V8, which was way 5 or 6 times more powerful than the sports car that I rode, And, many people have taken many, many years to get to that position. I took a very short space of time, and I had to learn so much. And now I'm competing with guys who've been racing longer than I've been alive. and I have to actually deliver as well. And the challenge was there. I mean, it's not easy to step into a very fast car like that, the Westbank V8. So, I mean, it's almost 600 brake horsepower. We could reach almost speeds of about 280, down the coast, and that's super fast. And to be able to then say, right, get in the car, drive, it was like, what? Me? I've always wished to be in that car, and here I am. I'm the one driving, and we're doing the whole South African Championship. So it was an amazing experience, and it did not go as I had planned in terms of my wishes of winning the championship. But those just are some of the dramas that comes with life, But it was learnings. It wasn't perfect. However, the experience of having him as a mentor.
What was the most important thing that he taught you?
I think for me, in terms, it's really, I think Sarel lived his life like a really rock star. He's probably the only real rock star in terms of motorsports. He's lived it, and even from a competition point of view, he's always said, listen, the next person is just like you. If you get into the same machinery, you should be able to beat him. You must decide as to whether you want to be there number one. In a car, you're the one in control. Never let it be in control of you. So that's pretty much what I took away from it.
What a lesson is that?
Yeah,
huh?
Yeah. So I mean, you just basically control your destiny. But it was an amazing experience. I had 2 years with Sarel van der Merwe as my mentor, and throughout my careers, actually, I've always been able to give him a call and say, hey, I need some assistance in 1, 2, 3. Your thoughts, or did you watch me race today? What did you think? And it's amazing. It's absolutely awesome to be able to have that type of relationship. And he included me in his book. Ka-ching.
Have you reached out to younger people? Are you mentoring?
I have.
Having experienced that?
Having experienced all of this has been really great. Although motorsports in South Africa is still a hobby as opposed to being an industry.
So you're not seeing that change yet?
The change is very slow. It's non-existent. I get calls, and Facebook, it's buzzing. YouTube, Gugu, hey man, I look up to you. I want to be just like you. How do I get involved in motorsports? And that's the saddest part. I mean, I don't have an answer for them. Yes. As it is, even myself trying to stay relevant is very difficult. It's all about sponsorship in the end. And if you don't have a sponsor, or you're not able to fund yourself into the sports, it's very difficult to get in. And I think that's the way the challenge is, and I feel that it's sad that we've got so many talented youngsters out there who I believe can drive. I mean, you've seen some videos of guys spinning their cars. And I'm telling you, things that you'd see in Soweto or any other township in South Africa, you'd be shocked as to how these boys can actually just get in and just do the business. But they just need that stepping stone. And I think that's where the problem is that the avenues of access are very limited. And, it's all about money in the end.
How have you managed to make it a career?
I think, when I look back as well in terms of my path as the development programs that I was involved in, it's unfortunate that they're no longer around. They're no longer happening. I was probably one of I'd say about 100 graduates that came through the Sports 2000 series, because it ran for about 3 years. And of that, I'm the only one who's still active in motorsports and actually racing. And the sad fact is, I'm the only black racing driver currently at the national level. In other words, racing nationally, which is sad because we had this program, but at the same time, it's all about the individual as well. I believe that I don't come from money. My parents did not have holds of money just to say, right, let's splash you and put you into motorsports. I didn't. But I understood the fact that motorsports is a business as well. And hence I pushed my educational side of things to study sports management and also understand the marketing aspect of the sport that I was doing, because, hey, I wanted to stay in it and be relevant. And the best way of doing so is equipping yourself with skills to be able to, to stay and be a player. And I think that's what's worked for me, because here I am. I understood that I need to be a brand ambassador. I understood how to market myself and open up certain opportunities, all about image and about, being able to play a role that the sponsors expect and want. And therefore, I've built myself as a brand name in South Africa in terms of motorsports. And I'm very lucky that I've had an association with Sarel that spans over 10 years now. Volkswagen also over 12 years. And I think that shows itself that, you need to understand the business of motorsports, and at the same time, work the system so that it also benefits you.
You also presented for a while on television. What was it called? Car Talk.
As I said,
was it fun?
Amazing. Till today, I still pinch myself and wonder as to whether, am I actually living this life? It's a blessing. I've watched a TV show called Drive Time with Alan Johnson and Hendrik Verwoerd. And eventually I got a call up, once I made my name in the sport, and they asked me as to whether would I be keen in doing a couple of tests, and I said yes. And this time around it was called Car Talk. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I found that to be the most exciting part of my life, because I got to drive so many fancy cars, that I've always dreamed of. Cars that I could never afford as well.
It really is a boy's dream.
It is a boy's dream. What better way is like, listen, here's the keys of a Ferrari. Go and drive it. Tell us what you think. And if you get it sideways, so what? But play. And it's been an amazing experience. As I said, I've ticked so many boxes in terms of my bucket list, and driving so many fancy cars and being exposed to it, that I'm still continuing today. I'm doing it for Ignition TV. And I get to test wonderful machines and talk about them and share my passion about motoring. So it's been an amazing experience to date.
Television is an interesting thing, that you do actually feel a relationship with your audience, even though you never see them.
Yes, it is. I think at first I struggled with it because, hey, I'm talking to a camera and there's no one that can, tell me what's going on. But eventually you get used to it, and you get to understand that you're obviously conveying the message about the car and about the experience, and that's what you're sharing.
These days you get feedback through social media,
a lot of feedback. I mean, there are people that tell me, but Gugu, I drive the little Taz and I love my Taz, but you said you don't like it, and I said, get a Picato or something else, something a little bit more safer. But again, it's nice to be able to interact with the public on those bases, because people are sharing their passion as well, and I'm able to also relate to say, hey, yes, I've experienced 1, 2, 3. Try it this way, So it's good to be able to share that as well with the viewers, and I'm loving the opportunity to be working on such a. It's an honor actually to be able to work in this industry.
But you're also an avid cyclist.
I had to. Motorsports is a physical activity. Many people think that drivers just sit and they just steer the steering.
No, even imagining it, I can feel it here.
Exactly. So your core takes a beating. Your level of fitness needs to be up. Yeah. And yes, I've basically taken to mountain biking as a sport that I really enjoy. But the nice thing about it is I get to see the country as well and be outdoors. I don't like the gym. The gym life, it's so confined. It's so boring. And then you go, no. I'm out there in nature, and to be able to actually see our beautiful country on a bicycle, I recommend that to anybody. If ever the opportunity comes, just take a bike and ride down to Durban, or go down to the Eastern Cape, whatever. But the point is, get on a bike and get physical, and at the same time be outdoors and enjoy the wonderful, beautiful nature that we have.
And the nice thing is that you and your now wife can share that.
My wife, it's such a blessing. She's an avid runner, and I don't quite like running. I remember we'd go to Kilometres to go and do a jog around the track. I found it so frustrating trying to keep up with her, because she's a little bit stronger than me. So that's why I ended up taking my bike along, and she'd run and I would cycle alongside. But we have a passion for the outdoors and being active, and our lifestyle is really all about active. She runs, and she's also an adventurous person, and it just kind of fitted so well that we
How did
were
you
able
meet
to.
her?
She stalked me.
Lucky boy.
She stalked me because I did a profile on a magazine of sorts. I think it was YFM magazine at that time, and she saw it and she was reading it, and she was based down in the Eastern Cape, at Grahamstown, while at school. So she saw this picture and she's like, "Oh, this guy is quite nice." And it so happened that her roommate actually knew one of my best friends as well. And he's like, "Oh, I know this guy. This guy is Gugu. We can introduce you." And they got my number, and then she sent me an SMS to say that she's an alien, and I'm enjoying this, and I'm finding it exciting because I'm smiling. And I thought, why? And she captured me with that SMS, And for 7 months we started chatting via SMS, which SMS at that time was still a bit costly, but needless to say, I did a lot of, "Dad, can I please get some pocket money?" But we SMS for 7 months, and eventually we met up for our very first date. And
Can you remember the moment you saw her?
I had not seen her. I remember 7 months of chatting to someone who, I don't know what she looked like. At that time, we didn't have smartphones, so we couldn't exactly SMS a picture. So I went to Four Ways, that's where we were meeting, at about 1:30. So I'm waiting at a restaurant, and I'm overlooking the parking lot. And I needed to go down to the car and drop off my bag. So as I'm waiting, I look across, there's a beautiful girl that's coming this way with an old lady. I think there was an old guy next to them, and they were walking through towards them. And I admired her. Wow, she's gorgeous. Anyway, I wonder, I hope my person is coming. She's also equally gorgeous. So I go to the car, drop off my bag, then my phone rings. So I pick up, hello, it's like, hey, it's me. I'm waiting here at the entrance. So when I look back up at the entrance, the very same girl I was admiring coming this way was her. And I was just doing all of these moments like, yes. And we hit it off from our very first date, so much so that 3 months later, I actually went to Grahamstown to a matric dance.
Good heavens.
And
Okay.
we did the matric dance thing. And today I'm glad to say that we, 14 years later, we are married. We've had our first year of marriage. And we've
Wait, don't jump over it. I want to hear about the proposal.
Well, yeah, look, we've been dating for so long. 14 years, and we got a wonderful opportunity to basically do the Absa Cape Epic, and we
That's
trained
a race
for it.
and a half.
It's the toughest mountain bike race in the world. I mean, it's a Tour de France of mountain biking, and you race against professionals as well as amateurs, and only 600 teams enter.
And you have to be in a team.
You have to be in a team
too.
So now, with myself and my dearest girlfriend at the time, we were not experienced at this form of racing, and we'd never done such a long stage race.
How long
so
is
it was 735 Ks. So what we did is we basically partnered up with people who were experienced. So I got a friend of mine who was also, a good mountain biker, and she as well got a guy by the name of Ernest Villion, but very good, and he was going to look after her. And we did this race, and of the 7 days of the race, I think on the third or fourth day, there was a time where I was riding because we had started ahead of Litsego, and myself and my partner were about a good hour. We thought we were about an hour. The next thing, there was a part where everyone in the group was pushing their bikes going up this climb, and then I heard baby, and when I turned around, it was my dearest girlfriend, and she was riding, and she rode past us, and for 3 days, she kept on beating us by an hour or so. But on the last day, I had to actually ask her partner, like, listen, I've got a bit of something that I want to do, and I need you to finish behind me, because if you finish ahead of me, it doesn't work. She said, what do you mean? I'm like, look, popped out the ring, and I showed him the ring, and he was so excited that he then was able to control the Tsego's pace going into the last day and actually slow her down a little bit. So I managed to finish the epic before her, and while we were waiting, they were tracking her, and we could see where she was on the course. And with about 100 meters before the last corner onto the finish line, I got down on my knees and I waited for it to come through. And it was a very special moment because we also had our folks. We got our folks to come through and actually, experience this wonderful moment. And it was just a bliss because I told them, I'm sorry I took you through the epic. I was not testing you or anything, but now that you've done it, congratulations. Can you come through and join me in my epic life?
And did she say yes?
She said yes. She said yes, and life just got better, and it's been an amazing experience. It's only a year and a bit we've been married, and I'm super excited to even inform you right now that we've got a little package, a Zulu princess on the way, an adventure baby.
So I can see you deeply excited. Are you making specific preparations? What are you doing? Have you done the baby room?
You talk about changes. It's amazing. Life is about to get exciting for me and my dearest wife. We're having a Zulu princess coming into our lives, and it's something that I've always wanted. I want to go first. And the other thing is that it's my parents, as well as Letsego's parents, are going to be first-time grandparents as well. So it's a change for everybody around us. And as for us as well, we've got a nice little house, and we've got 3 bedrooms, and got a bedroom that's now basically allocated to the Zulu princess coming. The color scheme has been chosen. The painting needs to be done. So I've done my last epic a few months ago, and now I'm focused on just getting the baby room ready. So things such as the floors, carpets need to go. We need to put laminate. We need to put some sponges. We need to put yellow and grey. So it's a wonderful change, and we're super excited. We cannot wait. It even boils down to the kind of car that I'm driving now. You know,
Yeah.
She says,
It needs
listen,
to accommodate a baby chair.
the Golf GTI, my friend, has got to go. And now we've got a Tiguan to be able to basically take everything that we need. And it's a beautiful moment. You know, life is, as I said, about to get really exciting.
Where's the home, and how did you buy that?
Well, I had a 1-bedroom. Letsuko had a 1-bedroom as well, because we were living apart. And we then decided to find a nice little nook to start our lives just before we got married. And in fact, the week after we got married, we moved into our place. And we're based in Portsmouth area, which is quite solid. It's exactly the right neighborhood. My parents are 3 kilometers to the left. My mom is 3 kilometers to the right. So ideal for, you know, babysitting moments. And it's a start. And our idea was that let's get this house until the little one is slightly older, and obviously we have another Zulu, whether boy or girl, come later on. Only then we'll then expand to a bigger house. For now, it's a nice little complex, and it suits what the stage of life that we're at right now. And it's an ideal place, because I was in a 1-bedroom and it was just enough for me. So now we have to make the circle a little bit bigger, and hence the wonderful place. But ideal starting point, and I think it's just can only grow and get better from here on.
How did you experience the change from having your own space to now sharing?
That is something that was very difficult.
It
but
is a thing.
It's not easy, you know. But I'm coming from a home where it was myself and my sister, and therefore that space was, you know, I'm used to being the 4 of us.
Yeah.
My parents as well as my sister. Whereas my dearest wife was a single child, and she was only with a single parent as well. So you can imagine that it's totally different, especially for her. But when we came together into the one space, yes, I had my little nigglies, you know. I mean, I enjoyed my space, and she enjoyed her space as well. But we made it work, and it's just, you adapt to it, you know. Thankfully, as I said, we are quite adventurous people, so she took offense to me hanging my bikes in one of the rooms, which she doesn't like. And I had to beg her, like, I don't want to take my bikes to the garage, or I didn't have a garage at that time. Like, you know, what am I going to do? It's like, no, but you cannot have bikes hanging in the TV room. It just doesn't work. So those are kind of changes that we had to compromise on, and it's fine, because at least, you know.
He says, gritting his teeth.
What else? But we've managed to make it work. Although, as I said, she's very artsy, and she likes things in a certain way. And whereas for me, I'm really a free spirit, and I don't mind. But I'm not saying I'm messy. I'm not messy. It's just that, yeah, it's okay. So I've got a bike in the middle of the living room. If I had it my way, I'll park my car next to me. You know? But for now, I guess we'll have to just toe the line, because it's a joint government now.
All of the very best, and I wish you so much happiness with your Zulu
Thank you
princess.
so much, and I cannot wait. As I said, the best part of my life is about to begin. I feel really blessed to be living the life I'm living, and what more to do it in South Africa that's constantly changing, constantly growing. Opportunities are really quite big, and it's an honor for me to be here, to be able to experience and share my story with you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All of the best. Till next time. Goodbye.